And we are back now here at the KFYR Plus News Desk. And guns, of course, are the leading cause of death among youth ages 1 to 17. An average of 7 young people a day die. Now, a gun rate death for this group have doubled from 2013 to 2022. June is National Gun Violence Awareness Month and the health crisis which we face with gun violence. Now, joining me right now to discuss some solutions to gun violence and what is the most important thing people can do to prevent gun violence is Dr. Catherine Hoops, pediatric critical care physician and director of clinical programs and practice at Johns Hopkins Center for Gun Violence Solutions. Dr. Hoops, welcome to the news desk. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Dr. Hoops, gun violence in this country has been trending upward for many years. What is the most important thing people can do to prevent gun violence?
I think the most important thing that people can do is actually a really simple step, and that is to safely store all firearms in the home. We know that this is protective against unintentional injuries, suicide, homicide, especially among youth.
What is meant by safe firearm storage and why is it so important?
So, safe storage means keeping all guns, every time, stored unloaded, locked up, and separate from ammunition. And it's so important because really, the public health approach to injury prevention operates on the assumption that if we put barriers in place to interrupt, a pathway from exposure to use, from crisis to injury, that we can save lives. And safe storage is exactly that. It puts a barrier in place so that if a curious toddler would have found a loaded gun in a nightstand, they instead find a locked gun safe that has some buttons that they can push, but not a loaded firearm that could potentially be deadly. And, we know that everyone wants their kids to be safe, but there's a big gap that most firearm owners don't consistently safely store all their firearms, including more than half of gun owners in homes with kids. So, right now, millions of kids live in homes with unsecured loaded firearms, exposing them to potential risk and making safe storage all the more important and potentially life saving.
Dr. Hoops, how do you respond to concerns that safe storage laws might delay access to firearms in emergency situations?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I totally understand that as a gun owner myself, that many people own firearms for personal protection. You have that firearm in the first place to keep your family safe.
Hmm.
But safe storage and having a firearm for personal protection are not mutually exclusive. You can do both. And so in those cases, we encourage people to use a quick access safe, a safe that's secured with a key code or a biometric lock that you can get access to your firearm in seconds and keep your family safe in the event of a home invasion or something like that. But also protect your kids, your family from unintentional injuries, suicide that can happen when an unauthorized user would get access to that firearm.
What are some of the main obstacles to implementing safe storage regulations nationwide?
Yeah, so we know that more than half of states have child access prevention or safe storage laws, and these laws are associated with reductions in unintentional shootings, suicide, homicide, especially among youth, and also reductions in gun theft. But your state doesn't have to have a safe storage law for people to practice safe storage. You can still make a decision to safely store firearms in your home regardless of what the law in your state is if you don't have one.
Hmm. Critics often claim that gun control laws are ineffective because criminals don't follow those laws. What evidence do we have that gun control measures can still reduce gun violence?
Yeah. I think again, everyone wants their kids and their families to be safe. And so I think that, people still want their families to be safe. They want to secure firearms in their home, but may have a gap in understanding of the potential risks. And that's why these kind of conversations about safely storing firearms are so important. We
Hmm.
also know that safe firearm storage is preventive against theft, and we know that hundreds of thousands of firearms each year, if unsecured, are stolen from homes and from cars, and that's a really important means to safely store those firearms. Is an important means of preventing guns from falling into the hands of potential criminals.
How do we know that safe firearm storage works?
So, we know from decades of research that implementation of safe firearm storage laws is associated with reductions in unintentional injuries, in suicide, in homicide, again, especially among youth. So, we know these laws are effective. And a big part of the way in which they are effective is by promoting education and awareness that this is an important behavior for all responsible gun owners to adopt, and also potentially by creating liability for if a kid or an unauthorized user does gain access to that firearm. But really importantly, I think it promotes education and normalizes this behavior among gun owners.
One final question for you, Dr. Hoops. There is a perspective that gun violence is more of a result of societal and cultural issues rather than gun availability. How do you address that viewpoint?
Certainly there are many factors at play, and, safe storage alone will not completely solve the
Hmm.
problem of gun violence in our country or in any community. But it's a really important first step, and it's one that anyone can do today if they're not already practicing safe storage.
Well, we covered a very important topic, public health crisis of gun violence, the significance of National Gun Violence Awareness Month this month, and the impact of safe storage laws. Thank you again, Dr. Hoops, for your dedication to addressing the gun violence and working towards a safer future for our youth. Thank you for your time. I sure appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, 8 minutes after the top of the hour. Quick break here at the news desk. We'll come back with a look at your local headlines next on KFYR Plus.